Hello and welcome to night one of our book club. I am Sadie, the host, I guess, and this is Brad, my co-host. So we don't have anybody hopped on at this point, but I wanted to start the recording so that we can send this out to people who may be interested in joining us for the next 6 weeks or so, whatever amount of time that it ends up being. So we chose the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind because I've read it before and I feel like it's such an important piece of working through your relationship with money. And this can be in any area of life, whether you are of retirement age or whether you're young or whether you are like us, where we're kind of, building a family and looking at debt and looking at, how do we want to continue forth with our next chapter in our lives. And so I will be listening to this book on audio. Brad has the ebook. So we actually physically don't have the book in hand. And I thought about that for a minute because I was like, how are we going to break apart this book club? Are we going to do it by chapter? Like, let's read X amount of chapters per week. Or do we want to say by page? Like try to read 60 pages this week. And I really thought about that and thought, I don't think we need to break it down at all. I think that we have the 17 takeaways that I found from a website that pull from the book, and we can discuss a couple each time. And so that way, no matter where you're at in the book, if you're still on page 2 or 3, we can still talk about, rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. And then everybody can just say where their starting point is. What does that mean to you? And how do you take that statement into your life as it is right now? And if you've read some points in the book that pertain to that, let's discuss that. And so no matter where you're at, if you're on page 5 and you have an aha moment, or if you're on page, 105 and you have an aha moment, bringing any little sticky notes or highlights from the books or anything like that would be really helpful to the group as a whole. And some people are going to be watching the recording each week. And so just sharing your sharing your bits and pieces to it, I think is really important. I saved this, or I sent this book to my mom. And one of the reasons why I did is because at her stage in life, they're retired. Like, they still have some ideas revolving around money that are lingering in their head. And I love sharing the story about my dad's mom, my Oma. She built her wealth in her 60s. She struggled through life with my Opa, having little side jobs, like small careers. They owned a nursing home. They had a gun club. They had a radio station and things like that. He was an insurance salesman for a little while. And oops, Molly's hopping on right now. And she asked for the password. I didn't put the password on the darn flyer. So I hope there's nobody else like trying to get in without the password. I know that they could message me if they need to. So I'm just going to watch my messages in case somebody else tries to hop on. I am going to turn off the password. That's what I'll do after this. So if you're watching the recording. All right. I totally forgot that there was a password. So I'm going to have to go set that setting. I can't hear you. You are on mute.
Been a while since I've been on my computer doing this.
Yeah. Well, I'm recording it. So I was just kind of introducing for anybody that watches the recording what we're going to be talking about, a little background of the book, and just kind of what the goal is. But I was just starting to talk about Oma and how she built her wealth in her 60s. And so Molly's a cousin. Right. So she is very well known of my dear Oma. And so their upbringing, they had all these little jobs and stuff, and they made it. They did okay. But then she created a business, became an entrepreneur in her 60s, and just built this great wealth with, we don't even really truly know the extent of how much money she made there because she was very private about it. And she did a really good job with how she presented her newfound life later. And so for anybody reading this book, no matter what stage you're at in life, no matter what stage you're at with your um, earnings and stuff like that, this is a really great book to read. And so I have printed out my 17 takeaways.
Wow.
And we talked a little bit.
To do that? No, I didn't do that yet.
That's not the assignment. Nope. I've decided that, anybody you can read at whatever pace you want to. And so each week we're going to be talking about the 17 takeaways, and one at a time or two at a time, we'll just go through each one of them, and everybody can have their aha moments no matter where you're at in the book. So if you end up binge reading it all right away, cool. If you slowly, leisurely do it, don't end up finishing the book, that's fine. But if you end up binging it at the end, that's fine. But I love to hear everybody's aha moments as they're going through it. And so I think that's going to be really great. Brad has the ebook. I have the audiobook. I've read it before.
I got the one you sent me. I actually was on page 82 at one point, apparently, but I'm going to start back on page 1 because I've been all over the place and I'm like, I don't remember what I read. I really want
to good.
And
and the hard thing that I have with books like this on audiobooks or on ebooks and stuff like that, it is, it's hard to like sticky notes or highlight notes and stuff like that. Like, but when you have a physical book, as long as you're like, okay with that, like, taking the notes or putting sticky notes in there, you can reference back to it. And so you can, while we're having our meetings, you can be like, oh, on page 42, I wrote down this. Did anybody else? Does that ring true with them? And have that discussion. And so, yeah. So I figured tonight, and we don't have to take up the whole time tonight since nobody else is on. And I don't know if people are trying to get in because they don't have the password. Oops. But I think I have password and waiting room turned on. So I need to fix my settings with that. But I figured we just talk about like our thoughts about wealth and like what was taught to us as kids. One thing that I'll always take away from my dad is he would just be like, we're broke, we're broke, we're broke, we're broke. He would say things like, I hope I can make enough money this season for Christmas, or I had a really good pay week this week. We're going to go out to dinner. Like he would always reference that. And Lord knows that man was not broke, but that's how he perceived his life. So Brad, do you have any comments about like things that maybe your parents would say or things that you kind of always thought about? I know some things that you and I have talked about, but what are you coming up with?
That we just didn't have the money with everything. I don't know.
Do you feel like they turned down things that you wanted to do because of money, or?
I really don't know. My mom and dad really didn't talk about finances much, honestly. Like they really didn't talk about finances. We didn't go out to eat a lot. We went to fast food, but we never went out to eat. So like I wasn't able to like take us, like peek at the tip or anything like that. I can't really remember my parents fighting about money either.
That's weird.
But I just know that growing up, we were not well off comparatively, like my friends. So, but we never went hungry. Like, we never got clothes. But I feel that things were spent in areas that didn't need to get spent. They could have went better areas, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So my parents,
money was an interesting thing growing up.
Yeah, they never thought about money, but like my mom and Keith would always talk about, just all we need is love. We just need love. We don't need money. We just need love. And they would bring it up a lot that we can't afford that. But they found deals at garage sales. They found deals at thrift stores. They would, if any amount of money would come into our life, it was spent right away. Like there was never a savings. I knew that as a kid. And I just remember them thinking, well, this wasn't money that we would normally have, so we're just going to get rid of it.
Right.
I think that the biggest thing for me is I wasn't really taught how to deal with money, how to manage money. That's probably the biggest thing. Like I wasn't really taught how to manage money.
Right.
So like we're trying to sit here and instill stuff with Miranda with managing money and understand money. I really didn't get that.
She
so
found a $5 bill in a purse and she was like, I didn't even know I had that. And I'm like, Brenda, you need to know how much money you have. But yeah, too, I think, I'm not going to go into great detail about my parents and stuff like that, but my mom and Keith filed bankruptcy and we had to move in the middle of 7th grade because they couldn't afford the home that we had in New Brighton. And so that was a part of my upbringing too, that bankruptcy was an option. And so what about you, Molly? What's coming up for you in this realm?
I do remember the saying, money doesn't grow on trees. And I remember, just always mom going to work and dad going to work, and we had to do chores to earn our money. So it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to work really hard to get by in this world, and having a piggy bank, and saving, and mom showing us how to balance our checkbook to the penny. Nope, it didn't work out. Go back and find it. Where is it? That kind of, she really, teaching us that and how to save your money for a rainy day, that kind of stuff. And we didn't go out to eat very often. When we did, it was a special occasion. It was a treat. It wasn't every week thing, I guess that's kind of
well, the interesting thing, our connection is that your dad and my grandmother grew up on a farm out in the middle of, farmland, South Dakota.
Yep.
And, I don't really know truly if they were poor farmers or, middle class farmers, but, I know that made an impact on the 4 sisters and your dad. And it seemed, though, at least from the outside, all 4 of them eventually did really well. I don't know, how they had to get to each one of their points in life, but it does seem like a lot of families, they grow into their wealth as they age, like a lot in ours. And so my dad created his own company and stuff, and like he didn't have the help of his parents. It's like you don't, like, there wasn't a lot of gifting to, like, you had to work for it. We were workhorses, like I had to work for money, like. And then even right out of high school, like, I joined the army to get my money. And so although they would always take care of us, and we've been gifted things very nicely, but I think that this book really brings out a lot of those thoughts, at least in the beginning, especially about where some of that stems from and how to let it go and how to really lean into, if you were an awful person before you had money, you're going to be an awful person after you get money. And then if you're a good person before you gain money, you're going to be a good person after you gain money. Like you can use your money for good, and money is just as important as air, water, shelter, all of the things in life. You can't get very far without it. And so I think it's going to be fun to have a group of people popping in and out and listening in and contributing where they can. And so I'll save this recording to my YouTube and send it out and all that stuff. So we'll kind of wrap up here in the next few minutes, but I want to talk about number 1 here today. And this is of one of the pages that I found that was like a book club outline. And so number 1 is, rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. Now, we've talked about this in our community, how we get to do this, not I have to do this, or this happened for me, not against me. So it continues to say, if you want to be wealthy, you must realize that you and only you are in control, especially with your financial life. Many poor folks play the blame game. The object of the game is to come up with as many people or circumstances that they can point their finger at without ever looking at the person in the window. Another reason the poor are poor is many to do nothing but complain. When people complain, they focus on what's wrong in their life. What you focus on expands, so they'll keep getting more of what's wrong. The law of attraction states like attracts like, meaning when people are complaining, they attract crap into their lives. Mr. Ecker states that he avoids complainers altogether because negative energy is infectious. He also says, I guarantee you'll be astonished at how amazing your life will be when you stop focusing on and thereby stop attracting crap into your life. It's time to take back your power and acknowledge that you create everything that is in and not in your life. Realize that you create your wealth, not your non-wealth, and every level in between. So good stuff right there, right? Number one, we're hitting it hard.
Right, boom. Are you like just doing one little section at a time, or where are you at in the book?
Yeah. So this is from the website that I pulled off the book club, like breakdown. And so I don't know if this is chronological to the book or not, but that's why I thought it was kind of cool to talk about no matter what page anybody's at. So even just hearing that, and you haven't even somebody hasn't even cracked the book open yet. Like Brad hasn't started reading. Have you? No. So talking about that right there, like I can think of many situations where we're surrounded by complainers. Like you're surrounded by complainers in the military all the time. And it's like they just attract more and more and more. And I see it in nursing. They complain and they attract more and more and more. Yeah, at the school.
Undersupported, underpaid. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But the more that it's talked about, the more that people start comparing. Right. And I remember seeing other nurses, you know, complain, and I would join with them because can't beat them, join them. I would be the one little, you know, cheering my horn in the break room, like, let's be happy and positive. And everybody'd be like, get that weirdo out of here. And I was like, yeah, who's that weirdo right there? I'm gonna be with you guys. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, if you've got to blend in sometimes. And that's why growth, when you go through these, can be very hard. And like that comparison game, I'd see nurses that always had their nails done, had Gucci bags, you know, designer, everything. And I'm just like, oh, they get paid the same that I do. How do they make their money? And there's more than one way to make money, as we know. And so it's very interesting how that mentality can seep in when you work in jobs where everybody should get paid around the same, rather than paid off of their effort and paid off of how much they put into it. So that's a very interesting way to think about it too.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about number one here?
I was also dealing with Miles and sorry. No, I believe it's true. But at the same time, I think that it's easy. Sometimes, like, I'm for the devil's advocate. I think it's easier sometimes for rich people who are already in the situation to say, I created my life. And, you know, poor people are always going to believe life happens to me just because they're in those situations. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if at some point in time, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates were like, life happens to me, right? Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, changing your mindset, like, that's the biggest thing, right? Mm-hmm. Changing your mindset, and we have to do it and surrounding ourselves with like-minded people. So, you know, like attracts like, essentially. So.
It's the law of attraction.
So it's just one of those things, like just flipping your mindset to say that I create my life, you know, and that can be between money, physical fitness, health, you know, you create your life. And
any area of life.
Any area of life. And so it's just a lot of us, it's easy to say that life happens to me, especially when it comes with money. But
we've done different versions of vision boards in our home, and little notes and little, you know, bits and pieces of stuff. And I wrote on my whiteboard, we are a money magnet, money flies at us, and things always work out for us.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, I still, sometimes when I'm writing goals about money, I hesitate, because I feel like it's been ingrained in me that like money is not always good. It's the root of all evil, you know, like bad people are rich, you know, like I remember driving through rich neighborhoods and like thinking like, oh, must be nice to have all that money. Oh, like must be nice to have that car. And yeah, it probably is really nice. That's just the jealousy coming out. But it is like, I often think too, I'm like, when I make the money, I'm going to be more giving. And it's like, you know what? I should be giving now, because, you know, we're not so far off that we're, you know, not hungry or anything like that. And so it's like, if I already act as if and give that law of attraction and start building into what we're already doing, like instead of saying, I want to be debt free, I'm going to write debt free. We are debt free all over the house. And whether it's on a sticky note or on a whiteboard or anything like that, on our fridge, talking about and acting as if you're bringing in that law of attraction, and then also surrounding yourself with people who have become debt free or who are debt free, or, you know, are also striving to be towards that, so you can bounce those ideas back and forth, I think is super important.
But I think they also, you need to be careful in that sense, because if you're with people who have already made that money and have already done that thing, they're gonna be spending that money, whereas you don't have that money. So you could find yourself in a financial crisis, you know, like if you're going out with people who have that money to like, but you can learn so much from people, just following them around. Like you do it at the gym too. Like you follow people around at the gym and you just learn from them. So I think that's the best thing, but you just got to watch out, just watch yourself.
Well, I think I know like what you're talking about, because like if you are going out to eat, right,
Yeah.
if you are going out to eat at a nice restaurant and you're like looking at what is the cheapest thing on the menu,
right,
and you're like, I don't care what it is, I'm going to order that cheapest thing on the menu. There's actually, I've read about that in a book, that cheapest thing on the menu mentality, where it's about priorities. And if your priority is to, you know, get to the point where you don't have to look at the prices at all on there, you can make a decision based on what you want to eat, not on the price, but then it has to come from somewhere. So either you're going to hustle to make that money back, or you are going to cut your corner somewhere else. And so it is a perspective. And so if it's important to you to be able to do those types of things, like you have to be able to be that control and balance that checkbook and know where your money's coming from. And if you work in a position where your effort reflects how much money you make, then that should be that desire, that drive, that force. And, you know, you get to create that version of your life. And so you can take that statement right there, put it on your vision board. I want to go to a restaurant and not look at the prices. I want to walk into, you know, my favorite clothing store and not hesitate to buy something that's super cute because of the price. Like, so it's about being really specific with the goal setting. Oh, there's a kitty. DJ. I saw some of my neighbors' kitties today too. They were super cute.
nice.
And so
I totally get both sides of that, because it's like I have big visions and I have big dreams, and I have worked, like literally usually worked 2-3 jobs just to squeak by, you know. And it's like, oh, how do people do this who make money? I don't understand, you know. When I'm doing 2 to 3 jobs at a time, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to find that. I guess it messes with my mindset sometimes too, because I'm like, I'm terrified that I'm not going to have enough, or I'm lacking in some way or some area. But then I start thinking of like, oh my gosh, when I see an opportunity or stuff, and then I find a vehicle that can actually like maybe get me there, my brain almost wants to freak out on that too. It's like I'm afraid of failure and success all at once, because if I'm like, oh my gosh, well, if I made that money, what would I do? You know,
it is.
It's a taxes. I don't know what I'd do with it all. You know, they'd want it all for my student loans. You know,
Yeah.
then I'd still just, you know,
that's
my brain
why
spinning.
You have the mentors and you have the people to surround yourself with, because Eric Worre talks about having mentors of all different kinds. You have mentors you've never met before. He would talk about Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, like Les Brown, all these people in his backseat of his car as he'd listen to audiobooks. Yes, sir. Do you have a statement to make about?
Look at heart. Look at, oh, you should give it a heart. Look at that sucker.
I see that sucker. Can you go have that? So it's the having those mentors and stuff to be able to lean in on when to figure out the how. And so like I remember last year kind of freaking out about taxes, because I was like, I don't know how to do taxes on this stuff. So I started educating and watching videos and learning about it and trying to figure out how to do this, because I've only ever worked, you know, jobs where I get paid by the hour or the military. And so it's like you do have to find and attract the ways of figuring out these questions that are scary as you don't know going into it. And so it's always like, look at the destination, the how will just figure itself out. And so it's very,
like Beth Henning here.
what's that?
I said, you're sounding a little like Beth Henning here.
Yeah. Well, she's a mentor and she's somebody that I get to meet and actually hug and squeeze and know in real life. And so it is really, really nice to have a good variety of mentors, like all different places in life. And so I remember last year going to somebody that I know in the same field and asking them, like, how do I do taxes? And they're like, I'm the wrong person to ask. Go to somebody else. Maybe ask this person, maybe ask that person. And that's when I started doing my own research. And so, and then I talked to a CPA and stuff like that. So you go to those people that are experts in that field, and you can provide value to these experts that's not always money based. Like you can befriend CPAs, you can befriend tax specialists and befriend financial advisors without needing to purchase their skills and information. Like eventually you can get to that point, but I have learned to network with all of these groups of people and provide value to them in other ways without just being like, here's my money. So it's all like coming
a
together.
learning curve and not getting into comparison and appreciating each other's unique abilities and talents and gifts that we've all been given, and leaning into it as a team, not a competition.
Absolutely. And so I think this is going to be a fun 6 weeks here. So we'll wrap up on our recording session here. So anybody that's watching the recording, we will meet every Sunday at 5 p.m. and, or no, 5:30. Yeah, 5:30. I'm like, wait a second. Did I start at 5? No, I started at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, which is 7:30 Central Time. And the Zoom ID will get fixed to actually have no password. And just reach out if you have any other questions. So have a good day.